Hi, friends. Welcome back to Live at the Roxy. You guys have been asking for her, and I'm glad you have been because she's the crusher herself. Rachel Cushing in the house.
Hello. Hi, everybody. How's your Sundays?
I guess it's Sunday.
I know. It's like the thing that's happening now is everybody's like, what day of the week is it again? And forget about the date. I haven't known what the date was, and I'm working. So the days of the week I'm a little better on than some
Yeah.
people. But the date, I'm like, yeah. How are we a third of the way, half of the way? Are we almost to May? I don't even know.
I really don't know. I had a friend the other day who was like, I'm so glad we're in summer now. And I was like, what month are we in? And then I was like, I
Yeah.
think it's April. And she was like, it's April? I was like, yeah, I don't think April's part of summer. I actually think we're months away from being in summer.
Yet it's like 95 degrees out there right now.
Yeah, how do you feel about, are you a 95-degree fan, or are you that sounds like I'm asking about 98 degrees. Are you a fan of the hot weather, or how do you feel about it?
Having grown up in New England, like
Yes.
Massachusetts girls, I do not miss the cold. I do not miss the wind and like that frigid temperature snow thing like that. I'm not a fan of that. I'm happiest, like I like high 80s. I can deal with that, especially because it's drier heat out here. It's not that humidity and everything else. But we're just not in a great place for it right now because it's not like I can go outside and can't go to the beach, can't really do the hiking that I would like to do that I would enjoy this weather in. I'm stuck inside and running my AC at max capacity, which is, we've already had a blackout in my building last week.
No way.
So
What happened?
when the weather got bad, not only is everybody in my building home, streaming, working from home, using all of their electric appliances.
Course, yeah.
Now we're all running our ACs because it's 90 plus degrees outside and it just shut down. And
For how long?
15 minutes, which that wasn't terrible, but I was in the middle of working. I had to like text my boss and be like, I don't know what to tell you.
And you also don't know during those 15 minutes, it's like, is this going to be hours? Is this a day?
Yeah,
and then my mind right now starts to wander because for me, it's like, you can't get a hold of anybody. Right. So you think that 15 minutes is all of a sudden is a lifetime. And you're like, I'm never going to have air conditioning again. My Wi-Fi's gone forever. This is my life now. It's the worst feeling.
My head was going to like, oh, I can't do my job. So I'm gonna have to text them and tell them like, I can't do the notes. I can't get this episode out to the network tonight. And they're going to be like, all right, sorry, bye. We're going to go find an editor who doesn't have a power outage right now because we need somebody who can get the job done. So it's just like panic inducing.
Speaking of editing right now, what are you working on? What's the job? What's the gig? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I got very, very, very lucky that when all the stay-at-home stuff happened, I'd already lost one job for all the different things that were happening. And then I was like, well, this is it. Now there's not going to be any jobs. But
yeah, everybody was thinking that. I think if you didn't have a job going in, even if you did have a job going into this, it was
you didn't know if it was gonna
very
last.
Likely that it was not going to be there for most people.
Yeah. The thing with post-production, what's happened, so our industry is like this pre-production, this production and post-production. So a lot of editors, or not a lot, but a higher percentage of editors are able to still work because if the footage was shot, then there's something to edit.
Right.
So if everybody got all the production done in time, or they're shooting in such a way that doesn't violate any stay-at-home rules, which is what my show is, I'll explain in a second, then there is some editing work out there. It's going to run out because at a certain point, we're going to run out of all the footage that everybody shot for the shows and the movies and everything else. And so we'll be in the same position as like production people right now. Production people are completely shit out of luck. Like there's no production jobs because you can't congregate. So
one of my best friends is in production, and she called me and was like, I have to schedule for me not to, I think, have work until October. Like I have to budget out because she was like, I don't even know if that's long enough, but right now I'm having to figure out until October because there is not a gig on the planet I could get right now. There's just not one, which like breaks my heart because what are you supposed to do?
That's the question that like it's just heartbreaking because we are in this industry and we know so many people and it's really, really, I feel like everything's contradictory. Like life is contradictory right now. Every time like I talk about, my job and everything else, it's really stressful. It's really long hours. A lot of people that are working more than they were before because of this whole stay at home. Well, you're at home, so work more hours. There's like this mentality going on across all industries. but I don't want to complain too much about working because there's so many people that aren't working. So I'm just like, I don't really know how to handle all of this on top of everything else. But
are you finding a difference between your friends out here and your friends back east in terms of how it's affecting them? Like, are they working more or less?
It's different. Most of my friends that aren't in the industry are like have families and stuff. So like their situations are so different. Like my sister is, has a 4-year-old and she's working from home for the financial institution that she works for. And my brother-in-law is a mailman. So he is still out there working. That's still considered a necessary job as long as the U.S. Postal Service stays in business. And she's trying to work a full-time job, be a stay-at-home parent and teacher to your full, like, so that's most of the people that I still stay in touch with are mostly family back east, to be honest. Their situations are different, and it's just so crazy and weird. And like, we talk about it. And the thing that like, I keep going back to is like, there is a fair amount of, oh, I'm in the worst situation. Oh, no, you're not. Like, I'm dealing with this or I'm dealing with that. And it's like comparing who's got it worse off. And like, that's just not the right way to look at it. It's like, everybody's dealing with it different. Everybody's got a different situation. And I don't think comparing helps anybody.
That's a really good point, because even with myself, I find myself slipping sometimes. I mean, but I usually compare me to me. So, like, I don't know if you saw, but my grandfather was in the hospital for a while during this, and then he got out. And so the second he got out, I was like, okay, now we're good. Because me compared to me, 3 days ago is doing a lot better today.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But every day kind of comes out with its own struggles, and it really doesn't matter who has it best right now, worst right now. Like it's kind of shitty for everybody, and you got to help as many people as you can. First, including yourself, but then also other people, and spending time being like, what's your situation? Because I have an extra dog and kid. So really, this is much harder for me. Like, what does that do?
Yeah. And the flip side too, it's like, I have found myself and I'm trying to stop myself, like, the people that aren't working like a job like I am, like I'm working 11 to 12-hour days during the week. There's all of this like, well, I'm able to go for a run every day, or I'm able to work out every day, or I'm able to learn. Like, it's so silly. A producer I used to work with, her post was, I learned how to properly blow dry my hair because I watched it on YouTube, but I'd never learned how to do it before. But she had the time to do something. It's a silly thing, but I'm still
so envious of that.
I know, right?
I do not know how to do that.
I just can't reach. I don't know how people do it.
This is what I do. What the hell is going on here? Who knows?
Right. But it's like, it's the, you've talked about it. I think it was with Drew Guy when he was on your show, the idea of like, people are saying, well, now's the time to write the great American novel. Now's the time to learn to play an instrument. Now's the time to do all of these things. But that's so much pressure. And everybody's doing it differently. So like, I find myself being envious of people that can do those kinds of things, because I have no bandwidth at the end of my 12-hour workday to do anything else. And then the weekends I'm just recovering. But they're thinking, oh, well, you're lucky you have a job, you're earning a paycheck. So like, that's what I mean. Like, the grass is greener, but at the same time, it's not. It's everybody is doing the best they can with the circumstances that they personally are in.
I think we can all agree currently the grass is pretty brown everywhere. The grass is just kind of, we've got brown grass growing right now, and hopefully if we water it for long enough, it gets green again. But right now, the grass is not really greener anywhere. I don't know anybody who in this situation is like, this is the best ever. This is the best life has ever been. I am loving every second of this, because even if it's not the day-to-day struggle, I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't have anxiety during this time. It's anxiety because we don't know when, where. Talking about your power outage for 15 minutes. Yeah. We don't know how long we're going to be in this isolation for. So that's the other thing that everybody has going on. But I do want to go back to your job, because you said you were going to tell us a little bit more about what it is you're working on.
Yeah, it's so it's a Facebook show. It's season 2. It's called 9 Months with Courteney Cox. I didn't work on season 1, but it was just like one of those right place, right time situations when I lost my job and stay at home kicked in. A very good friend of mine who I've been an editor with on several other shows is on this Courteney Cox show, and they lost one of their editors when the stay-at-home stuff happened. They just couldn't, they had
Make it
kids,
work.
and like the
Yeah.
situation just couldn't work. So they had an opening, and he knew that I was looking. Like, it was just like that morning I had been reaching out to friends saying, have you heard of anything? He found out that afternoon that they were losing one of their editors, and so he put me in touch, and I got very lucky to get the position.
That's why it's so important to reach out to your people
Yes,
during this time, because you just don't even
100%.
know. Like, I know
No.
it's hard for me, and I'm guessing it's hard for you too. I'm so awkward about asking or just telling people like,
Yeah.
here's my situation, but I'm sure he was so happy to do that for you because you're great at what you do. It's not even a favor. He just like it's pairing two things that he likes together. So to anybody out there who is concerned about asking for help from your loved ones or whatever, try it. Just throw it out there and see what happens, because you don't know.
And the worst thing is that they're just none of your friends or colleagues or family people know of jobs right now. That's the worst outcome of that. So that's not a terrible thing. It's just, in the reaching out thing, even though it's hard initially, like I always feel better after the fact because I'm getting some sort of support, whether or not it's actually a job. It's just the support of friends of saying, if I hear anything, I'll definitely let you know. There's this list that, I'll ask around for you. Like, whatever small gesture it is, helps. It's that you are not alone thing, that everybody is
Sometimes
out
you just
there.
want people to say, yeah, the grass is brown.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
Pretty
we
much.
feel you. Yeah. I think that's a great point. So you're working on season 2 of that. Do you know how long or how is it going?
It's okay so far. It's very stressful. There's, as always in my industry, lots of cooks in the kitchen. So there's lots of executives and producers chiming in with what they think the show should be. And there's certain parameters, they're about 15-minute long episodes. They'll be dropping on Facebook Watch. I think season 2 is going to start dropping next month or in the next couple of months. The interesting thing about the show and the reason why we're able to keep going with the season is that it's a self-shot show. So it's sort of a raw, down and dirty documentary series where the producers went out and found all of these couples, single people going through infertility, people from different religions, different races, going through the 9-month process of trying to get pregnant or being pregnant and giving birth. And we just track their stories. And we have 10 of these, I say families, but it's every story is different. And it's a real snapshot into, sort of an American diaspora of people and how actually wanting to bring, a child into the world is a thing that unites everybody, no matter what their religion, no matter what your sexual orientation is and whatnot. And so it's a really positive, raw, interesting, personal look at that process. And these people just open their lives up to us, and we just give them iPhones and some direction, and they just shoot themselves going to doctor's appointments or, having conversations. That we see their baby showers, we see them talking with their families. There was a story last season about a very young couple, a couple of 17, 18-year-olds who spent the season agonizing over whether or not they should give their child up for adoption, so it's a lot of heartbreaking stories, but heartwarming stories. And I'm really happy to be a part of the team bringing this together. It's also the showrunner is a woman, the co-executive producer is the woman, the entire story team are women. There's 2 women on the editorial staff. So to me, to have these stories being told by women, even though they're, the men that are involved in the stories too, it's just really great to be a part of a team that has a point of view about the whole thing that really works. So it's it's tough. It's, like I said, long hours and a lot of grind to get through. But at the end of the day, it's work I'm proud of. So
this is where my post-production ignorance comes in. But how would your job be different if we weren't at stay at home? Would you be going into a production house? Would you be sitting there? How is that working?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm physically doing is the same, but I would be doing it in a post-production office, which can just be an office. I mean,
Right.
sometimes it's on a lot, sometimes it's in an old office building. When I worked on Project Runway All Stars, we were in an old like dentist's office. That's what the rooms had used to be, but the company was just renting out the space for the space. So like, go
That's
figure.
funny.
We often joke that like post-production, it gets the short end of the stick because you spend all the money in production and you tend to go over budget at that point. And then everybody's like, oh, wait, now the whole thing has to get edited. Oops, we don't have any money left. So like that's when the corners get cut and things happen sometimes.
But how are you even like, because right now, sometimes I'll want to send a photograph to a friend, and to do that is like, will take 20 minutes because Wi-Fi is such a joke right now. Like, how are you even transferring all of this footage? I would imagine that is incredibly time consuming.
It can be, and every company's doing it differently. I have a good friend who is working on MasterChef, and they did shoot the season beforehand, so they have footage to work with. That company just took their editing machines, their Avids, and just shipped them to all the editors' houses. So they actually have their own machines that they would be working on in their offices, and then terabytes of the drives these days. You can have a terabyte of footage on a drive that's this big. So it's easy enough to copy and bring it around. What I'm doing is a remote access system. So I have a program on my computer that remotely accesses an Avid that's in a production office 10 miles away. So there's
technology crazy? Because like you would not have been able to do that prior. I mean,
no, that's the crazy thing about this. And it's still not perfect because like you said, everybody and their mother's on internet right now. And I had to upgrade just to make sure it would work. And it's not foolproof. Like my system stutters, like certain times of the day, you can just tell most of the people in my building are streaming and doing stuff. So like my megabits per second is slower than it should be to be able to handle what I'm doing. But at least it's, a close approximation of what it would be if I was at the office actually, editing on the system itselp.
Every day, speedtest.net. That's the first, every day, speedtest.net. It's my first thing. I'm like, what do I got today? Who's doing what around me? Is this going to work? Because it is hard. I'm noticing we got a lot of super chats and Streamlabs coming in, and also Patreon questions. So I want to start getting to some of these. Always our first super chat of the day comes from Larry Lease. Larry, I really appreciate you. He says, come on, rock stars, hit that like button. It's great when you pimp out my stream so I don't have to. So Larry, I appreciate you. He also says, hey, it's the champ. And Roxy, that's what I get now. Larry, you're trading me that quickly. Everybody's about the champ. I get it. Billy Belford says, Rachel, how goes the Wheel of Time reread? Is that what you're doing right now, Rachel?
I was. It slowed down a little bit. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much, but this job, while I'm so unbelievably grateful to have it, is wearing me down an awful lot. 12 hours a day, trying to deal with so many cooks in the kitchen and just the stress of that is sort of all I have bandwidth for. So
it's your own Wheel of Time.
So I'm not, and I'm a reader, but I am not reading much right now. I have to put something, on TV when I'm done for the day that's completely innocuous and that I don't have to really pay much attention to. And then I pretty much like go to bed like an hour later. So there's not a lot of room for watching new things or, reading or even rereading stuff. It's sort of, I'm a little tunnel vision during the week right now. So theoretically, I'm still almost done book 3. And I'm always also reading multiple things. I have like a attention span, or when I sit down to read, if I'm in the mood for something, if I'm in the mood for, fantasy, if I'm in the mood for nonfiction, if I'm in the mood for like military history, like I'm always reading multiple things. And then whatever I'm in the mood for is what I start reading when I'm there. And I'm in a book club and stuff. So,
are you guys still doing book club digitally?
We've been doing our Zooms. So that's been great because it's just having these things on the books, even though I can't do as many of them as I would like.
It gives you
because of my work, it gives me something to look forward to because I need some benchmarks. Most of the time it's just get through one day at a time, especially with work. But like knowing I was going to do this today was something I could look forward to. The Fife Club has occasionally been doing streams.
Yeah, that's been
been something to
awesome.
look forward to. I did Casterly Talk with Ken on Friday. I managed to find some time to talk some
that's
Game of
awesome.
Thrones. So like to have those to look forward to, it helps to know that like, oh, I don't have to continue thinking about this one thing that's sucking up most of my brain at the moment.
Yeah, because what the truth is, and why I've been doing this every day, is I want to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds like the most whiny thing, but like I want to hang out with my friends for an hour a day. I know every day, no matter what comes, that I'm going to be streaming the next day, and I have an hour to just be like, I'm a person. I'm a real human being. I'm not just somebody who works for a bajillion companies who doesn't have any me time or whatever.
Right.
Whatever we call that these days. So I definitely feel you on that one. Billy also had another one. He said, what is your favorite hike? Because I know you mentioned hiking. For me, it's Madison or Lake of the Clouds.
Nice.
Washington is for tourists. I miss hiking every spring. Do you have a favorite hike?
If we're talking like of all the hikes I've done around the world.
Are you a world hiker?
Yeah. So it's funny. Once I started the Schmoedown, and frankly, and I'll throw him under the bus, once I started dating Sam, I don't hike as much because it's not really a thing he's into.
We got to get him into it.
I almost killed him on a hike that we did
happened?
very near the beginning of our relationship. We did Eagle Rock hike in Topanga Canyon, which is an all-time favorite local. It's like a 7-miler. I know it by heart. Like it's fun. It's beautiful. It's like got a good view at the end. Like it's a great 7-mile hike that I'll just do on the weekends. So I took him and my friends Liz and Colin came with us too because they live in Topanga, and like he has asthmatic issues, and it just at about 3/4 of the way up, we didn't even quite make it to Eagle Rock. He looked like he was going to keel over, and I was like, I don't really think I should keep pushing this. We should turn around and go back down right now.
But was he not wanting to say it to you?
No, of course not. Yeah. He's very aware of something that I did. So my dad is a retired firefighter, and he's an amateur mountaineer. We grew up in New England, so he knows the White Mountains like the back of his hand. And he goes up in like the dead of winter, snow camps, hikes, ice pick, the whole.
Oh my God, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
wow.
Most of my more adventurous tendencies I get from him, and it's something that we bonded over. And then when I moved out to LA, 22, had a production assistant gig and an apartment that I was sharing with my best friend in Hollywood, and we couldn't afford gym memberships. Like you can't afford anything when you're first starting. So we just started hiking Griffith Park, and we met a group of women that were really into it, and we started branching out. And so we started doing, we go to Grand Canyon and go whitewater rafting and hiking out there. We'd go to Catalina Island. I've done most of Catalina at this point.
Catalina is such a great place to go hiking
too. Beautiful. And if you get outside, like Avalon's a lot of fun, but if you get beyond that, and like we were like camping on the backside of the island one time, and like buffalo were just roaming through the campground.
Oh my God, that's so
just
cool.
So random and fun,
Yeah, I love that.
But once I started, making a career and doing better for myself and whatnot, I started to take it international. So I've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, this is your thing.
It was for a long time. It was my biggest. I had work, and then I had this totally opposite thing. Like as an editor, you're in a tiny dark room with like multiple screens for 10, 12 hours a day. And I love it, and it's great. And it feeds my sort of like, introverted nature. I don't have to deal with a ton of people when I work and whatnot. So it's perfect for me. But I did find that on the weekends, I needed the exact opposite. I needed to be outside. I needed to be moving. I needed to be exercising. I needed the sun and the nature, and not to be technologically stuck to a computer for hours on end and things like that. So
wait, so I would assume that Kilimanjaro would be your favorite. Is it not?
It's actually not. I hiked Sagarmatha National Park, which is it's Nepal. So I was in the Himalayas.
Wow.
So I did that. I did a 10-day trek in the national park out there. I just wanted to see Mount Everest in person and just be out in the villages and everything. So a really good friend of mine who I've done a lot of these trips with, and I did that in 2013. And we had perfect weather. And it was trekking. So we weren't staying in campgrounds. We were staying in like tea houses, which are just like, 4 walls and a roof over your head. But it's still, it means you don't have to carry all of the backpacking stuff that you need for some of the other treks. And I'm not a religious person, but I do consider myself a spiritual person. And that's the closest I've ever felt to really feeling like a sort of an otherworldly spiritual presence, up in those mountains. And
we have to figure out what we can do to get Sam to do that with you, because I feel like experiencing that with your person would be so incredible. But we don't want to kill him though.
No, I'd be more upset about that than not necessarily doing a lot of hiking trips with him. So
I get it. I've been asking a lot of my people who are in great relationships on the show how they're finding quarantine during a relationship to be. Are you finding it to be challenging? Are you finding it to be exciting? I know you don't have much you time, so
sure. It's funny because when stay-at-home hit, so I guess I have to back up a little bit for people that don't know. Sam and I don't live together.
Right.
We talked about it about a year ago, and the issue is he is deathly allergic to my cat. He's never spent the night at my apartment because he couldn't. He has about 3 to 4 hours max in her presence. He loves her, and she actually really likes him. He gets weekly shots to be able to just get to that point with animals.
No way.
But he's like, this isn't just like, oh, I'm allergic to cats. This is like, I will break out into hives and my lungs will close up allergic to most animals.
Rachel.
Yeah. So we've, for a while, we're like, we're fine. I have my place. You have your place. I'll stay at your place a lot. And she's pretty self-sufficient. But a year ago, I moved into a much smaller place, very close to his place, so that I could not exactly move in with him, but spend much more time with him, and then just be able to like jump over to my place to spend time with her and feed her and everything else. So when stay-at-home hit, I was basically just going to stay with him and walk over to my place occasionally to check on her and everything else. But then I got the job, and his internet cannot handle us both working at the same time. So I couldn't set up shop there. So I am actually at my place during the week, and then I go to his on the weekends. So we're not actually seeing each other that much more than if all of this wasn't happening. Like if I was just working a regular job, this is kind of similar to what it would be anyway. And so I've actually said to him, I'm like, man, one of the supposed perks of this for people in relationships is they get to spend more quality time together. I'm like, that's not the case for us. We're not actually getting to spend any more time, which,
not to be all woo woo though. Like, but you're just living in that truth. That's your truth. And you guys are just living in it. But let me ask you this, and I'm sure you've thought about it a million times, but what are you going to do about the cat?
We've been talking a lot about it because, and he got the proposal in under the wire. He proposed 2 weeks before stay at home happened. And
I've watched that video 80 times. I'm so upset that I was not there. So freaking upset.
It wouldn't have made a difference, but Sam almost told Christian. Sam had been planning that for 6 months. My fiance is a fantastic liar. I've now realized he's an actor.
Most actors are great liars.
Yeah, I guess so. He hid that for 6 months, and we'd even had conversations that led me to believe that a proposal was not on the table for another couple of years, which was fine for both of us. We don't want kids. It's something we decided very early in the relationship that was something neither one of us wanted to do. I'm 40, just turned 40. It's just not on the table for me at this point. And so we were fine. So there's no timetable rush to get engaged. So I had no idea that was coming. But I had told Christian like in November that I was planning to have this big party for my 40th. And he came back and said, that's the weekend we've already decided to go to Atlanta on. So I thought I was giving him enough notice, but he'd already
booked it.
Yeah.
It's such a bummer because it is what it is. There was nothing to be done. But when I saw the video, I was at a bar in Atlanta and I'd been sent the video and I just started yelling. I was like, no. It was so amazing. But Sorry, continue.
No, it like you said, it was what it is. I was disappointed, especially because as we got closer, I was realizing who wouldn't be there because of who was ended up playing that day and everything else. And Sam told me afterwards that he almost told Christian what he intended to do, just on the off chance that date wasn't definitively set for Atlanta, but he didn't want to like rock the boat too much with that.
Also,
and
it's not good for more people to know because I mean, it was such a surprise.
That was his ultimate thing was the only person who knew was Clark Wolf. He told her because the two of them are very, very close because they work together for DC. And
yes, of course.
So like she and I are very good friends and they are very good friends. So the three of us, hang out and do stuff together. Well, used to hang out and do stuff all together all the time.
But she didn't slip anything at all?
No. And they had, I forget where they were going. They were doing something together and he got a call about the ring. So like she was kind of aware what the phone call was about. And so he mentioned it to her, but he also did it because he wanted somebody to be able to shoot that video because nobody else knew it was coming. Everybody, I have lots of videos, but they all whipped them out like after he knelt down, like once they realize what's happening and then they allow the cameras come out. But she did the whole thing. She recorded all of the speeches because both my parents said something. And then he started.
So your parents didn't know?
My parents didn't know. My parents love Sam and he loves them, but he recognized right away that they're like me, no poker faces. If he told them, there is not a chance in hell they wouldn't have let it slip for me to find out that it was going to happen.
And the surprise was important.
It was to him. Because like I said, he pulled one over really good for 6 solid months because we'd had various conversations, and the guy who designed the ring is a good family friend of his that I met over Christmas, but I did not realize why I was meeting him. It was because he wanted to meet me before he designed my ring. And so they met his whole family. So his family knew, I guess I should say that. Okay. So they were all in on Sam's going to propose. He wants to design a ring. This guy's going to do it for him because he's an old family friend who's a jeweler in Manhattan. And so he came over to like a dinner at Christmas time, and I'm just meeting this guy. He's just a family friend. And I asked what he did, and he's like, "Oh, I just like working watches." And I just let it go. Like, I was like, that's fine.
Why would you think twice about that?
Why would I think twice about it? And then I find out later that whole thing was set up because he said he needed to meet me before he could decide.
Wow. Wait, but okay. So still staying on this though, lady, what about the cat? I
know. Okay. Yeah. So
if it's too stressful to talk about, then no worries.
It's a conversation we have all the time. He has said no uncertain terms that he would never ask me to get rid of her. She's almost 11. And he doesn't want me to do that. So that's why we did this plan. I have a smaller apartment, smaller rent, and I basically live with him, but spend some time here with her. We were hoping to buy a house that had like so many homes out here have converted garages because nobody cares about using their garage as a garage because we're in Southern California. Mm-hmm. And that room could be like my office / where she could live. She doesn't need a lot of space. She's a very homey. She's not a cat that like if you open the door, she's going to shoot out. She's going to look at you like, I'm not going out there. Like she's the biggest scaredy cat, homebody cat. Like she'll be fine in a smaller space. But the market being what it is and where exactly we are, it's like tough. We could afford a house, but it wouldn't tick enough of the boxes that we're looking for. And we know that if we just waited another year to save up, we would be able to be in a better spot for that. But to save up, I really shouldn't be spending rent on this place. So,
right. So it just sounds like something will work. We just don't know exactly what yet.
Yeah. And we have a lot of friends who have, been trying to help us brainstorm different things, like considering asking a friend to take her for a year while I move in and we save, and once we buy a house, then I could take her back. Or if she comes to love that person and that ends up working as a home for her, then I wouldn't want to uproot her again if that worked out. But it would mean something if it was a friend who had her, because then I could still see her on occasion and whatnot. Right. And I do want to do what's best for her because I don't want to, just keep uprooting her. She's like I said, she's a big scaredy cat. And like I've moved twice with her, and both times she spent a week hating me. because I just uprooted her life and brought her to a new place, and she
Yeah.
didn't recognize it, and her hiding spots are all different. And even though it's the same things, and even though it's still me, she took a long time to adjust. And she's a single cat. She doesn't like other cats, so it's
Does
hard.
she like Sam?
She does. Most of the time it's more of a tolerate situation, but there
He's
are
taking too much of my mama's time. Mhm.
right. When she comes out for him. I've had friends
Yeah.
come over to my place and be like, I don't believe you. You don't have a cat, because she will hide and she will stay hidden because she just isn't enough. I was a single woman for the first 10 years of her life. It was me and her. She just did not have any interaction with other people very often. So she got used to that. And now she's getting used to having somebody else around a little bit.
Wow.
But yeah,
I can't believe that
it's
situation.
touchy. It's tough. It's a tough, like, it's such a weird situation, because a lot of people who don't have pets are like, what's the big deal? I'm like, you don't have a pet.
Oh my
so you
God.
don't even
Of
remotely
course it's a
understand what
big
kind of
deal.
relationship that is.
Of course
and
it's a
how
big
hard
deal.
it would be.
Before we were mentioning Schmoedown, so shout out to Molly Damon.
Hi,
Molly, you are the sweetest, cutest. I love when you pop
Mhm.
in here. She says, sending good vibes, stay strong. Appreciate you for joining us. You rock. Also, Lonnie Wheeler, appreciate you showing some support in there too. And Molly wasn't the only friend of ours that popped by. I also saw our dear Ken Knapsack in the chat. He says, hey, two cool peeps.
Mhm.
I definitely think Rachel's a cool peep. I don't know if I'm a very cool peep, but I'll take the compliment. Thank you, Ken. You rock. Wow, I miss my friends.
It's so weird. Like, it's we Sam and I did a virtual date with Riley and Julie, his fiance,
so
and
fun.
Dan and Mara. And
Oh my
it was
God.
just really, really nice to see them. And we all had our drinks and we were all just chatting. And you know, I've had, like, a lot of ups and downs with the Schmoedown, but the thing that has meant the most, my fiance,
Other than
and
that, yeah.
there's that. But just the friendships that I've built through it, and like I miss tape days. Going in and seeing everybody
Yeah,
on
me
those
too.
days, and just that interaction. It even after I stopped, competing, like, it's part of me thinks, well, just like everything else, I sort of took it for granted, and now that we don't have them and I can't see everybody face to face and whatnot in person, it's like, oh wow, you didn't realize how much that meant to me
I know.
until I can't do it.
I definitely took things for granted too, so I feel you on that. We have some Streamlabs and some Patreon questions, a lot of them about Schmoedown. So let's get into this. Weston Ira says, congrats again to the Crusher on your engagement.
Thank you.
As half of my favorite Schmoedown team, the Shire Wolves, and the actual GOAT of the MTS, in my opinion, what do you think about there eventually being a Schmoedown school? This school would connect the three leagues. What do you think about that? And what do you mean connect the three leagues, Weston Ira? It could connect the three leagues. So maybe this school would teach all, whatever. What do you think about that?
I think that what the show is doing or continuing to evolve into is to evolve into a show. It was a game show first, and now it's much more a show with the scenes and the rivalries and the stories, and that just continues to grow. So something like a school is another opportunity to have more scenes involved, have more acting involved, have more characters.
It'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like the like on the side. It's like why I think having like a minor league type thing could be a lot of fun, and you integrate it into the stories too. You have the managers; these are your the prospects in the minor league. You're checking them out. You're seeing what if they're up to snuff, and you sit in the back of the classroom and you look to see how they're doing and what are they what are the things that they're learning. And I like the idea of, because it's also evolved into something that people study for. That just makes sense that there are study methods. What is Bateman's study method versus Clark's study method versus Kevin Smet's study method? And like, you can almost like compare them and who's going to release their secrets and who's not. Like, there's just a lot of potential if you're talking about this growing even more into a show with scenes and characters and interactions and things. School's an interesting way to do that.
I agree. And we're always getting great new people. Shout out to Jader, who said this quarantine sucks for everyone. Shout out to Roxy for keeping the streams coming. Rachel, you're the best. Glad to see things are looking up for you. Jader, you rock. Thank you for being in here. I'm just jumping around, guys, still going into the Patreon questions also. LK says, hi, Rachel. And there's an exclamation point, so they're excited. I only own one Schmoedown shirt, and it's for the Shire Wolves, which I regularly wear. I get mistaken as a wolf enthusiast sometimes, though.
Sure.
My question is, what is a past movie that you'd like to re-edit, or maybe just a classic movie you would have loved to have worked on? Thanks for guesting on Roxy's and for all the positive impact you have on the Schmoedown. You and Clark will always be my favorite players.
Thank you. Cute. That's really sweet. Well, the movie that I would have wished I could have been a part of as an editor is one of my, sometimes I say my favorite movie of all time is Lawrence of Arabia. It was David Lean directed, but Anne V. Coates, a female, edited that film. And she's credited with a lot of editing techniques that have since been used thousands of times. And in that movie has the greatest film edit I've ever seen. And this isn't like news. Anybody who follows or looks into this is probably well aware of what I'm going to say. But there's a shot when T.E. Lawrence is holding up a match with a flame, and he blows it out, and it cuts to sunrise in the desert. And there's an emotion to that edit that you can't describe, like, because it's Lawrence of Arabia and because you've been waiting to go to the desert and because it's a character in the movie. When you have that character who's so inextricably connected to the desert, have that transition to get there. It's just an all-time great. And I've always loved that a female edited that movie, because it sometimes gets knocked for being a film that is very masculine, which is true. I don't think there's a single female speaking role, and it's a 3+ hour movie. But to me, that's
love
not
how
the
life
point
works sometimes. Oh boy. Yeah. I love that answer. Glenn Caesar in here says, hi, Roxy and Rachel. Happy Sunday. It's great to have you on the show, Rachel. Glad you're in the #Rockstars band. Yes. What are your top 5 favorite Disney animated movies, including both classic animation and Pixar or live action movies like old school Mary Poppins, The Parent Trap, Tron, or Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Okay, top 5 is a lot. Maybe top 3 Disney animated movies or live action. It's too much. Maybe just top 3 Disney animated movies. Okay,
because I was like, it's hard because as a kid, like I would gobble up like Pollyanna and Parent Trap and like a lot of those movies.
Me too.
But I mean, certainly not to this day. Well, as a child, my favorite was Sleeping Beauty, hands down. Cool. As slightly older child, it was Aladdin. But I'm a Pixar devotee at this point. Like what that company has done, again, because I was an adult. I mean, I was 15 when Toy Story came out, but everything they've done since, I think Inside Out is one of the best movies of the last 20 years. I love that movie so much.
Oh, it's so good.
I never tire watching it. The Toy Story movies. I think WALL-E's amazing. Finding Nemo's amazing. Like,
which is your favorite of the Toy Stories?
2. Toy Story 2.
Interesting.
Yeah. I like the not so thinly veiled Star Wars references that are all over it.
I get it. Well, we're being visited by a lot of great people today. Ben Goddard. Oh my God, I forgot about Pollyanna.
Oh, I didn't.
Ben, how dare you forget about Pollyanna? How dare you? Also in the super chat, PLD, Paul Denuzio says, hey, Rachel, excited to talk the Moulin Rouge soundtrack with you, Chris Clark, and PJ soon. Ooh, what's happening?
Yeah, so Chris Clark is for anybody knows, a massive musicals fan. And over 2 years ago, he had a YouTube show called Suddenly Soundtracks that he would get, different YouTube personalities to come on and talk about their favorite musicals with him. And he would edit the hell out of these things, and they were beautifully done videos, but I think there might have been some copyright strikes and some issues, and they were also very editing intensive. And I actually shot an episode on Moulin Rouge with me and Chris Clark that never saw the light of day because of the different things that were happening. So I believe they're bringing back that show as part of PJ's channel. And so they're going through again and bringing on, whatever musical lovers they can find to come and discuss these movies. And Chris asked if I would redo Moulin Rouge, and apparently several other people are going to be joining us, including Paul and I believe PJ himself. So we haven't figured out when we're going to shoot just yet because of my crazy schedule, but I'm looking forward to being able to record that.
It's all about finding things to look forward to, like you said before.
Yep.
Garth McMurray says, "Hi, Rachel. I know you are retired from competing in the Schmoedown, but I was wondering if you would be willing to return for one of the proposed what-if matches, like what if Nerds Watch had stayed together or something else along those lines."
Sure. I change my mind about that every other day.
Like when the internet is being nice? Yeah, when the internet's not.
That's not a little part of it. I've never been, reticent about talking about sort of the issues I've had with the Schmoedown for me personally. And it's been a very weird journey since I retired because I miss it. I miss it immensely. But at the same time,
competing or being
competing. I actually miss competing. But at the same time, the show, as I mentioned before, just keeps growing, and I'm not entirely sure I'd be a great fit anymore with so many of the show elements, and there's so many, like, everybody really wants to up the ante with the heels and the acting and the interaction. And I was never good at that. I am uncomfortable with that. And I don't want to make other people's jobs harder because I am not an actress and don't, like, Jen Sturger was talking about how she really loves doing post interviews with Tom and Roca because they know what they're doing. They know that, she doesn't have to hold them by the hand. And like, I feel like I'm the person that, needed the hand holding, and I'm the person that, didn't always feel comfortable with that side of the show, and that side's only growing.
I hear what you're saying,
feel like I have a place.
I hear what you're saying, but to me, the Schmoedown will always be better with you in it. Always. So I know that I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that it's right for you. So I can't speak to that, and what's right for you physically, emotionally, like everything that comes to it with that. But nothing about you being in the Schmoedown makes the Schmoedown worse. So you saying you don't know if there's a place for you there, there will always be a place for you there because it's always improved by you being there. And I think it's okay that you don't, and I'm not trying to convince you to come back because, again, I don't know that it's right for you. And if it's not, then it's not. Yeah. But I don't think anybody expects that from you because you're such a ray of light and joy, and one of the best players to ever live. So I don't think that they're not looking for you to turn crazy heel and start flipping people off and slamming people through tables and storming out. That would be like, wait, what? Why is that such a weird storyline? So again, not trying to convince you of anything, but I think there will always be a place for you there. Jake Yakavetta is in here right now. He says, "Rachel, we definitely watched you get more comfortable as time went on, and there's always room for someone being real instead of acting." I agree with that. I really do. But I know it's hard. It comes with it's not just one thing. It comes with all of the things.
Yeah, it's never an easy answer. It's never, and I'm never sure if I'm quite articulate enough to explain how, like, even the little behind the scenes thing, they did the Lord of the Rings Patreon match, and, they reached out and asked if I wanted to do it. And I'm like, it's kind of loaded. It's because even though the Patreon matches are supposed to be fun and they have no bearing on the league and records and things like that, they are just as, if not more competitive than the regular matches.
Yeah, they really are.
I was part of the MCU one last year, and that actually got uncomfortable, and that was tough. And everybody's.
I remember that situation. Yeah. I remember that.
It was just like, and I was having a hard time up there too, and like people can't check the competitiveness, and I'm not necessarily saying they should, but there is a level, I'm not playing right now. All the other guys that are in the Lord of the Rings patron matches are all in game mode because they're currently playing. And so they're watching those movies to study them, to know them, to be able to play. And I haven't been in that game mode in a while. And I just felt, I couldn't get back into that game mode unless they gave me time. And I don't think they had time to give me. They needed to churn those matches out. And
also, I don't even know if you wanted that time to
right. Like, is that how I want to spend my time coming up, especially with my job and everything else? So like, I was really back and forth about it and hesitant, and I asked for time, and that wasn't something that they could do. So it was sort of the decision was taken out of my hands. And I'm sad that I missed it, like, because I do love that trilogy so much. The Hobbit movies, not so much, but whatever. And I would love to, it's like that. It's the thing about the Schmoedown sometimes in general. It's like, I want to celebrate my love of movies, but everybody's putting pressure on the knowledge side of it. And like, what happens if, like, Clark had a hard time with this for a while. She didn't like spinning horror because she felt the extra added pressure of the fans' expectations that if she didn't get one, they jump all over you. Oh, you're overrated. You're supposed to be this expert. You're not an expert. Like, we've
had a lot of people on the show say the hardest thing is when you spin spinner's choice.
Honestly, like, you don't kind of want your strength. They go after you hard if you're known for something and then you don't live up to that. And, and I don't want my love of Lord of the Rings to be corrupted by the competitive, I have to know every last detail of what color everybody's wearing in every single scene, or how many of the orcs are, you know what I mean? Like, those aren't the reasons I love the movies. I know a lot of the answers, but I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's all so much more complicated than it's easy to describe. But
yeah, I mean, that's why I have so much, I have so much respect for you guys for a bajillion reasons, but I could never compete because it's not the way that I watch movies, and I'm not willing to study, and I would need to, but like, I see, I go to all these screenings. I see as many movies as most of the people in the Schmoedown do a year. I'm seeing, I don't know, 3-4 movies a week. And I'm doing it. But when people are asking questions, I get like maybe 4 of them right the whole match, because it's just not I don't know. Like, it's just not the way that I consume movies, which doesn't mean I love movies any less. It's just not the way that when I watch you guys, I'm like, anytime anybody groans, I'm like, I haven't known an answer in 2 hours. Like, what are you groaning about? So I still think it's incredible. Going back into the Streamlabs, Weston says, who would you two Schmoedown stalwarts? What's stalwarts? Draft if there were a MTF school. Okay, so follow up. I think having the Crusher as principal and Jen as head of security, who's clearly an assassin from Assassin's Creed, are the most solid picks right now. What's stalwarts? Why don't I know what that?
Stalwart just means like like super dependable. Like, you'll always be associated with the Schmoedown because you're somebody that's been a fixture for it and a stand for it, and somebody that just
Can you
put
be
a lot into it.
If you don't know what stalwart means, I don't know. You guys might have to take my stalwart card for me. Okay, let's think about it. If there is a school, I think you would make a great principal. Jen would make a good head of security for sure. I feel
Ellis is your favorite teacher because he spends most of the class telling jokes and not actually expecting you to do your work.
He might be a substitute.
Ellis is the perfect substitute teacher.
And you like root for him so hard to be there. I don't know. I feel like I might end up being like the school nurse. I very often, as you guys know, end up taking care of people's like bleeding legs or cuts and bruises. So maybe school nurse, although we probably have way more qualified people to be nurses in the group.
I'm actually trying to think if there's anybody. I'm not entirely sure.
Who would be our gym teacher? We need an art teacher, a gym teacher.
Tom is like the existential, ethics philosophy.
Oh no.
philosophy teacher.
Him teaching philosophy. No, no, get the kids out of school. Interesting question. I appreciate that, Weston. Hopefully we gave you enough there. Morse code says, good to see the crusher. As someone working reduced, mostly safe hours, I feel like I'm straddling a line between being busy and not being able to keep up with everything my friends are doing, but I try not to look at other people's lawns. I like that.
Yeah, no, it's very easy to do. We just fall into it because it's what human beings do. That person is, this is what I should be doing with my life. This is what should be happening. This is how I should be feeling. It's what we do anyway. And right now that's compounded. So it's so exponential about the situation that we're all in. So I just try to, I know I'm not gonna be able to stop myself doing it, but I'm hoping I can catch myself doing it. And like, you know, it's like that, let yourself be afraid or let yourself be really upset. Count to 10. All right, now let it go. And you've got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, this morning I was on a Zoom baby shower. My best friend is having a baby, and we couldn't have a baby shower, obviously. So we were doing a Zoom one. And there was like 5 of the people in there were pregnant. And most of the people are married, and if not all of them. And I was sitting there and I was like, am I doing this wrong? Like, am I okay right now?
So easy to say that. Yeah.
So easy. It's just so easy. But kind of what you're talking about. I just had to be like, no, would I be happy living that life? Because the answer is no. Like, I moved 3,000 miles from home to do something else on purpose.
Yep.
Like, that was a very clear decision I needed to make. If I wanted to be doing that, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah.
So, but it is so easy to just be like, wait, like, check yourself. Am I good?
Yeah, no. And I'll do something that I honestly, I didn't love when I was single, but did end up coming true. So I'll just say it, like, if it is meant to happen, it'll happen. I didn't meet Sam until I was 37. And I had never been in a serious relationship prior to that. I'd never gone past a few months in a relationship prior to that. And so I had been coming to terms through most of my 30s with, I have a great life. I have very close to my family. I have great friends. I have this great hobby with like all the hiking. I have a career. Like, in the darker moments, because I battled depression, it was, well, look at all my friends that are married and can have relationships and have kids. And like, that's what everybody is always saying you're supposed to do. But I have to come to terms with the fact that maybe it's not for me. And if it's not, that's not the end of the world, because look at all these things that I do have in my life. And, you know, my friends that were married and whatnot be like, you know, I would just say, nope, it's not, I'm done. Online dating, I'm done. And it's not happening. It's never going to happen. And they're like, you don't know that. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. And damn it if they didn't turn out to be right for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy how, like, when people say expressions to you, they don't hit you till they happen to you.
Yeah.
Like,
you can't. It's like, I always say that if I could go back to high school and tell my 16-year-old self to stop stressing about the things I was stressing about at 16, which was like being popular and like hanging out with the right people and having the boyfriend, like all the things that made my high school life miserable. I want to go back and say to my 16-year-old self, none of this matters. Like, focus on these other things. But my 16-year-old self wouldn't be capable of it, because you're just not at 16.
Because even if you hear the advice, you'd be like, what? Yes, of course it matters. This is the only thing that matters. Going back into the super chat, Glenn Caesar says, couldn't possibly agree with Roxy's sentiments about the Schmoedown always being better with Rachel in it, no matter what the capacity, more than I do. That's what we think, but it doesn't mean that it it doesn't mean anything. That's just what we think. No pressure coming from us. Going back into the Streamlabs, let's see. Dodger Ryan says, Roxy or Rachel, for double donation, Wally resembles what 1986 movie character? 10 seconds. Obviously, I don't know the answer.
Short Circuit is my guess.
I have no idea if you're right.
I think that they'll let us know. I mean, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. So Johnny 5.
Movie trivia coming in from the Streamlabs, but thank you, Dodger Ryan. Glenn Caesar says, Rachel, here's a couple food-related questions for you. Number 1, what's your favorite go-to meal to have when you're feeling down or out of sorts?
I'm a big Italian pasta person, so like a really good baked ziti or lasagna or something like that is inevitably what I want when I want comfort food.
My sister she has a pasta maker and she's been rolling it out. She's been posting pictures, making fresh pasta. And I'm like, this is just rude. You're 3,000 miles away. Come on, stop doing that. Okay, number 2, favorite breakfast cereal?
Don't eat a lot of cereal. I loved Kix when I was a kid. I ate Kix a lot.
Damn. All right, Kix it is. Number 3, favorite dessert?
Okay. Cheesecake, probably. It's up there.
What, any specific kind? Just regular cheesecake?
Honestly, I like just straight up cheesecake. Not that I haven't been known to. I believe the Cheesecake Factory makes like a peanut butter cup cheesecake that I'm a pretty big fan of, because peanut butter and chocolate were born to go together, in my opinion.
They were.
So.
They really were. I Googled this week. I've been trying, like, I wanted to bake something because late time, I am staying up till like 3 a.m. and late night I get antsy and anxious. So I like to bake. So I Googled best peanut butter chocolate things, just because, like, I don't care what it is. Anything that's peanut butter chocolate together. Yes, please. That's the move. Okay. The last part of the question is, if you have one, what is your favorite late night snack?
It might not necessarily have been the case beforehand, but my fiance loves hummus more than pretty much anything on the planet.
Really? Like what kind?
Just plain straight up regular chickpea hummus, a boar's head in particular. And so pretty much anything with hummus. Like we try to do like cucumbers and like red peppers a lot of the times, but like I will break out the box of wheat thins and go through a whole lot of them with hummus.
Stacey's chips in hummus. I don't know that I don't know there's something that beats that. It is so good. I take olive oil and I scoop out a little hole in my hummus and I put a teaspoon of olive oil and chopped up garlic, like fresh garlic.
Wow.
I am telling you, that is the move.
Okay, I'll be convincing him to give that one a shot.
I'm a big hummus girl myself. We're running out of time here, guys, but I do want to get in this a couple last things. Garth Harkness McMurray says, with almost everyone in Schmoedown being editors, writers, producers, actors, directors, artists, etc., I was wondering if you all have ever thought about doing a movie or TV show that is not Schmoedown related. I think it could be a fun project. The problem is it's not really like a project that would take like all of our times. It'd be so cool, but it would be very time consuming, and a lot of us work doing those other things. I don't know. Have you ever thought about it?
It's funny. I think that before the Schmoedown became really big, I think Christian and all of them did do like a comedy series.
Grasping at Straws.
Yes, that's right.
It was a while ago, and it was really, really cool. And they talked about bringing it back, which would be great.
Yeah, that always struck me as like, because there's already a foundation of that and certain people that had worked together, and then you can bring in the talents of newer people that have worked and whatnot. But I think it would have to start with one of the writers. If somebody wrote something, maybe it's a short story, maybe it's a little series, maybe it's a feature film, I don't really know. But if somebody found something or wrote something like Riley or something like that, and that enough people, could do on the side when they can, because that's how those things get done.
I would 100% be in it. If somebody said, would you like to do this? I would be like, oh, absolutely. But I don't know that I'm going to be the initiator.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
And also, Rachel, so you have time to edit that, right? Just checking. You're going to edit our series. Just checking in. All right, guys, that's all the time we have today. Rachel, I don't want to let you go.
It's really good to see you.
And letting you go means I have to do work, and having to do work means I'm going to focus on the greener grass. Just keep reminding myself, everybody's grass is brown. It's all brown. Guys, we've got awesome guests coming up this week that I just want to remind you about. Oh, speak of the devil, Christian Harloff just texted me. He wants to know how his episode did. I think it did pretty well, guys. What do you guys think? My friend Dominic Burns, speaking of incredible writers, he's the one who wrote the movie I was in, Madness and the Method. But he's a producer for Kevin Smith and Jay Muse. So he just was a producer on the Jay and Silent Bob movie and a ton of other stuff. He's coming on tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. On Tuesday, Ashley Daniels is coming on, and she's teaching me how to put in hair extensions. I have never done that before.
Can you have to make sure you bring Jen Sturger back to do a makeup one, because I will totally tune in for that.
I need it. Yeah, Ashley sent me these gorgeous hair extensions. They came and I'm like, what do I do? I mean, they're so soft and like these beautiful things. I'm like, how is that even going to go in my head? But they're not permanent ones. They're like clipping it out because I don't think I could do permanent ones. I don't know. So I'm excited about that. Wednesday, Yell Teagle, Ultimate Nerd Girl, is coming on. Very excited. And on Thursday, Mike Kalinowski is joining us because he finally figured out his internet situation.
We did, I guess, let people know we did a Schmoedown commentary on our first Inner Geekdom Championship match against each other. And we had a few technical issues getting it going. But once we did, we got it, and it was great. And he also, according to Instagram, managed to cut his own hair. And this whole hair cutting thing with the guys,
really good. I could not believe it.
I was like, I looked at Sam. I'm like, everybody is either shaving their heads or like going on YouTube and learning how to do this. I'm like, is this something you want me to learn how to do? And he's like, absolutely not. We're just
gonna. How is his hair looking right now?
He's like, this is my excuse to let it go full Jufro. So he is going to let it happen, and we're going to see where this takes us.
That is incredible. I would like nothing more than it to be out to here by the time it is done. Oh, I want to see that so bad. Please send pictures. Need that immediately. Yep. Everybody at home, let's give our hands a round of applause for Rachel Cushing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing having you. Where can everybody find you? I know that you said you were doing some stuff with Fife Club. You've been doing those streams. So what are some of the things you're working on? Your show again for Facebook. Where can everybody find everything you're doing?
Yeah, if you guys think that 9 months with Courteney Cox, and Courteney Cox is like the narrator of the show and one of the producers, so that's why they call it that. Name recognition. Season 1's on Facebook. They're 15-minute episodes. You're more than welcome to check them out, and then season 2 will be coming out shortly. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, Rachel J. Cushing. I don't have my own show just because I can't do like a regularity. Like there's no schedule I can put up right now that would be is specific to like Live at the Roxy and what other people are doing. So I am trying to appear on as many of my friends' shows as possible just to have them to look forward to. And Sunday Fun Days is on Emma's Twitch channel and the Fife Club. We're not doing it every Sunday because we're all giving ourselves the ability to be like, do we all feel like it this Sunday? Does everybody need a break? That kind of stuff. So we're not doing
out about it when you're.
Yeah, we always tweet out ahead of time. So we did it last week. We're not going to do it today. It's the kind of thing where it was mostly just an excuse for the four of us who are super close to see each other and talk. And then we're like, we can stream it too. If people care about watching us chat, that's fine. We like interacting with the fans when we can. So I'll be around, and I'll definitely tweet whenever I'm going to be making an appearance somewhere. So.
Wait, random last question before I let you go, because I see it and I have never asked you this and I keep thinking about it. What's the J stand for?
Oh, J. J-A-Y-E.
Rachel J. Cushing.
Yeah. My mother's first name is Jay, J-A-Y, because my grandparents thought she was going to be a boy. And when she came out a girl, they opted not to really change her name. So they were going to call her Jay Russell because that's after my grandfather. So they called her Jay Rochelle. They just made up a name because Rochelle's not really a name, R-U-S-H-E-L. And I like it. Yeah, no, so she's Rochelle to my family, but Jay professionally. But she spent most of her life people thinking she's a man ahead of time because if they just see Jay Cushing, they think it's going to be a guy. And then she shows up and it's a woman. Yeah. So when they wanted to add that, my sister and I have the same middle name. She was like, can we at least feminize it? So if people see it and it says J-A-Y-E, they're more thinking that it's a feminine version
middle
of it.
Name? Does that happen? I don't know families that do that.
It wasn't any, like my family didn't have any, like Sam's always talking about, like in Jewish culture, you always name your kids after some relative from one side or the other, whatnot. Mm-hmm. Like my parents were just like, Do you like this name? No. Do you like that name? No. Thought about this. All right, that works. And just kept moving on. So it was just what they liked the sound of. So
the main reason I asked is because if you're in my family, your middle name has to start with a J. So we all have middle names that start with a J. So basically, I'm saying you're my distant cousin. What's up, Rachel J?
Hey, we're both from Massachusetts. It's entirely possible.
It could be true. It could be true.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Rachel, thank you again for joining. You're the best. And thank you guys for watching Live at the Roxy. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Stay safe. Brown grass, baby. Brown grass.
Oh, yeah.